Your spreadsheet worked. You built it yourself, you know every column, and for a while, it genuinely kept you on top of things. So when it starts letting you down, most business owners assume the problem is with them. They think they need to be more disciplined, more organized, better at updating it constantly. They're wrong. The spreadsheet isn't failing because of you. It's failing because of what your business has become. And there are specific reasons service businesses hit this wall faster than almost any other type of business. Today, I want to show you 4 of those reasons so you can understand what's actually happening and stop blaming yourself for a structural problem that no amount of discipline was ever going to fix. Reason 1. Your work is based on relationships, not transactions. You probably think your spreadsheet struggles because you haven't built it properly. More columns, better formulas, color coding. That's actually not the problem. The problem is that your work involves people, and people are not rows. A product business sells the same item to 1,000 customers. Each transaction is basically identical. A spreadsheet handles that fine. It's designed for uniform data. A service business sells something different every time. A plumber's job for one client is nothing like the job for the next. A wedding photographer has 40 moving parts that are unique to the couple. A physiotherapist treatment plan changes every session based on progress. The spreadsheet forces everything into identical rows, but your clients aren't identical. Their histories aren't identical. Their statuses aren't identical. So you start adding columns to cope. Note columns, special columns, just for this client columns, and slowly the spreadsheet becomes a record of exceptions, not a system. The feeling that this creates, you open it and you feel a low-grade dread because you know the information is in there somewhere, but you also know it's going to take time for you to find it, and another 2 minutes to remember what the color coding meant. Think about a wedding photographer tracking 30 bookings. Each one has a different deposit amount, a different contract status, a different shot list conversation, a different timeline for delivering the actual gallery. They build columns for all of that, and then they build columns for those exceptions to those columns. The spreadsheet is technically complete, but it takes 20 minutes of staring at it to answer the questions. What do I need to do today? That's not a discipline problem, that's a format problem. But here's the thing, the relationship complexity is just reason 1. The second reason is the one that actually starts costing you money, and most business owners don't notice it until it already has happened. Now, you might be wondering why someone who manages crisis response operations is talking about spreadsheets, and that's fair. The reason I know this stuff is that I've spent years designing systems across more business functions that most people realize exists. That goes from recruitment, sales management, onboarding, transport logistics, timesheets, expenses, compliance, and real-time incidents tracked across multiple countries. The problems service businesses face with spreadsheets are simple versions of what I've already solved under much higher stakes. And the patterns are the same every time. Reason 2, your volume of decisions outpaces your format. You probably think your spreadsheet is struggling because you haven't kept it up to date. It's actually the opposite. The spreadsheet is struggling because your business is making more decisions per day than a static document was ever designed to handle. Early on, the spreadsheet worked because your decisions were slow. 3 clients, a handful of jobs, 1 person tracking everything. You updated it once a day and it reflected reality. As you grow, the pace of decisions accelerates. You're booking while you're delivering, invoicing while you're quoting, rescheduling while you're onboarding. And each of those actions creates information that needs to live somewhere. The spreadsheet can't keep pace with real time. It's a snapshot, not a live view. Every time you open it, you're looking at a version of the truth from whenever you last updated it. What this means in practice, you invoice someone who already paid because the spreadsheet hadn't been updated yet. You follow up on a lead someone else already closed. You forgot to confirm a job because it existed in your head, not on the file. These are not memory failures. These are lag failures. The emotional weight, there's a specific exhaustion that comes from running a business at this stage. It's not the work itself. It's the constant low-level anxiety that something is slipping. That feeling isn't paranoia. It's your brain correctly identifying that the system can't keep up. I worked with someone running a small landscaping company, 6 full-time staff, 24 active clients. they had a job tracker spreadsheet. It was color-coded, it was detailed, it was genuinely impressive. But they updated it in the evenings, which meant all day they were making decisions based on yesterday's reality. A client would call to reschedule, fine, noted, but the team would still show up at the original time because the update hadn't gone in yet. They weren't disorganized, they were running a live operation on a static document. And here is where it starts costing you in ways that don't show up at all on a spreadsheet, because the third reason is about your team and what happens when more than one person needs to work in the same system at the same time. Reason 3. Single user tools in a multi-person business. You think the problem with your team and your spreadsheet is that people don't update it properly. That if everyone just committed to keeping it current, it would work fine. However, it wouldn't, because spreadsheets weren't designed for collaboration. They were designed for one person thinking through a problem. Spreadsheets have a fundamental architectural problem for teams. One person edits at a time. There's no ownership. Anyone can change anything. There's no history that tells you why something has changed. It just has. There's no notification system. Nothing tells you when it was last updated. What this creates in practice, the spreadsheet becomes a single source of anxiety, not a single source of truth. Team members start keeping their own notes elsewhere because they don't trust the shared version. You become the bottleneck because everyone knows that only your version is accurate. Eventually, the spreadsheet only reflects your understanding, not the team's. The thing nobody says out loud: when your business gets to this point, you haven't just outgrown a format. You've created a business that can't function without you, because you are the system. And the spreadsheet is just a shadow of what's in your head. The feeling that this creates: you can't take a day off without something going wrong. Not because your team is incapable, but because the information they need lives in a format only you can navigate. That's not a team problem, that's a system problem. There's a specific pattern I see with cleaning companies, because they often have 6, 8 or 10 staff, all working different jobs, different schedules, with different clients. The owner builds a master schedule spreadsheet. It's detailed, it has everything, but the team doesn't update it because they can't. They're on site, they have phones, so they message the owner instead. The owner becomes the router. Every question goes through them. Every change goes through them. Every "did they actually show up" goes through them. By 10 a.m. on a busy day, they fielded 20 messages that a system should have handled automatically. But most people think that's just the cost of running a team. It isn't. And the fourth reason is the one I rarely see people talking about, because it's not obvious until the day it breaks, and by then it's already too late to fix it quietly. Reason 4. Spreadsheets have no memory, and your business increasingly needs one. You probably think the purpose of your spreadsheet is to show you what's happening right now. Current jobs, active clients, outstanding invoices. That's only half of what a growing business needs. The other half is history, and spreadsheets are notoriously bad at keeping it. A spreadsheet is present tense by design. Rows get updated, old information gets overwritten, columns get repurposed. There's no natural structure for "here's what happened with this client over the last 18 months. As a service business grows, history becomes critical. You need to know what you quoted a client last year before you quote them again. You need to know which clients always pay late before you take on a big job for them. You need to know which jobs were profitable and which weren't. You need to know what a client told you in the last 6 months that now becomes relevant. What happens without that history? You restart every client every time, even if you've been working with that client for years. You make the same pricing mistakes repeatedly because there's no record of what went wrong before. You lose the context that makes your service feel personal and attentive, and eventually clients notice because you don't seem to remember them. The emotional weight here is different. It's not anxiety. It's a kind of quiet embarrassment. The moment you have to ask long-term client to remind you what you have discussed before, or the moment you realize you've underquoted the same type of job for the third time, because there was no record telling you what had gone on before. I once spoke to a personal trainer who'd been running her business for 4 years. Great client retention, genuinely excellent at her work. But she kept a client tracker spreadsheet where each row was a current client. When someone paused or left, she'd either delete the row or mark it inactive. When a client came back after 18 months, she had almost nothing to go on. What their goals were, what they struggled with, what had actually worked for them. She would start again from scratch, and the client would sometimes mention things they told her years ago, things she had no record of. She wasn't bad at her job. She had a system that didn't value memory. And that's the thing about all four of these reasons. They don't announce themselves. The spreadsheet doesn't send you an email that says, "You've outgrown me." It just gets slightly more painful every week until the day something falls through the cracks in a way you can't ignore. Which is why knowing the reason matters. But there's a harder question underneath all of this. What do you actually replace it with and when? I'll get to that in future videos. So, 4 reasons service businesses outgrow spreadsheet systems faster than other businesses. 1. Your work is based on relationships, not transactions, and people don't fit into rows. 2. Your volume of decisions outpaces a static document, and lag creates mistakes. 3. Spreadsheets aren't single-use tools in what has become a multi-person business, and that makes you the bottleneck. 4. Spreadsheets have no memory, and your business increasingly can't afford to forget. If you're nodding at 2 or more of these, it's not a discipline problem, it's an organizational problem. It's a format problem, and the format can be changed. In the next video, I want to shift gears slightly, because understanding why the spreadsheet fails is different from understanding how to think about what comes next. And that's a more interesting conversation. And one question you can answer in the comments. Which of these 4 reasons is the one you're living right now? The relationship complexity, the lag, the team problem, or the memory problem? I'm asking because it helps me understand what to build next. If you want more context about building calm, reliable systems for your service-based business, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.